Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
You're tuned in to Roundtable. I'm Steve Hatherley, today with Yushan and Yusha. Coming up, you've heard other people say it, and you've probably said it yourself. He's my best friend. She's my best friend. If you go through your life and you have one, you're lucky. If you have two, well, you'd be really lucky. But what if today's young people are choosing something totally different? On today's Soapbox, we're exploring a fascinating idea called soulmany-ships, where instead of one person filling every need, your best friend, you have different people for different parts of your life, and that includes AI. Is that lonelier, or is it more honest? After that, if you have something on your mind and you'd like to share it with us, we have the perfect place for it. It's called Heart to Heart, and it's on the way. And today we have a couple of messages to share, one from Shanghai and the other all the way from Canada. That's cool. You can find us at Roundtable China on Apple Podcasts, and don't forget that we love hearing from you, so send your emails and your voice notes to us, roundtablepodcast@qq.com. You can take part in Heart to Heart anytime you want. Roundtablepodcast@qq.com.
What are the things to say?
Hear ye, hear ye. Please gather round. It's time for the Soapbox.
Soapbox time once again. It's where we find a story from the internet that makes us feel something great or something not so great. We bring the story to you, and then we share our thoughts on that particular story too. Yushan, you've got it today. What would you like to talk about?
Well, today is definitely something great. But I'm going to start with a few comments, see if you guys have heard about it before. Now, have you ever heard from previous generations or people older than us, the so-called young people nowadays, that you young people don't know how to socialize anymore? You always stay on your phones. Nobody really make friends anymore these days among you guys. Have you ever heard about something like that?
I've heard that or said it.
I believe you. You should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, I also heard of it.
Nice, because now we have a newly released 2026 social trends report to prove how things are different from the previous comments that I just listed. So this report argues that today's young people aren't giving up on relationships at all. They're simply redefining what relationships look like. Like, for example, we're not just asking big questions like, oh, what type of characters am I to make friends with what kind of characters of people? Like, what's the best match for my like zodiac sign? What's the MBTI sign that fits me the best? That's one side of the story, but in the meantime, many young people are also focusing on something much more practical, which is trying to become what the report describes as an ordinary person who is free, sincere, and interesting.
How do you do that?
In order to do that, young people nowadays are building what the report calls a new support system made up of different kinds of life partners. And they are not necessarily played by one role or one particular person, not necessarily romantic partners at all, but people who support different parts of their life. Like, for example...
搭子.
Oh, yeah, that's a perfect Chinese translation of what I'm trying to describe.
Yeah, different companions that you will have for different scenarios. Your traveling dads, your traveling companions, or your music festival companions, or your like homestay companions. You just share probably one room, but you don't even travel together. It's kind of a acquaintance kind of thing.
So yeah, question, would you consider a dazi a friend?
Wow. First of all, I don't really have that kind of dads. But,
actually, me neither. But
yeah, but I think people intentionally have dads to make them not a friend. Because I only need you for this specific scenario.
Oh, that sounds awful when you say it like that.
Right? But
you see, that's what the critics are like. You guys are not sincere anymore. Why is one person taking up a role and you don't even consider them as friend? But in the meantime, for young people nowadays, it's more like different roles assigned to different people. And we can all see them as people around us, but maybe there's just a few seats, the rarest seats left for people that we call friends. So, for example, one friend is, the one 搭子 is perfect for hiking. Another is someone they can talk to about work. And then there's someone else we can share with the same hobby. So sometimes that role can even be taken up by an AI bot, let's say.
Yeah. Is this what people are calling soul many ships?
Yeah, that's a name I found very weird personally, but yeah, I mean, in modern times for young people, there's no need to label ourselves so that we can sell ourselves to please others in order to be their friends anymore.
Okay, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this.
Oops.
I've heard that a lot. No labels, no labels, no labels, no labels. But when you say this friend is for hiking, this friend is for shopping, this friend is for going out on the weekends and eating at new different restaurants, and this friend is for when I have a problem at work, aren't those labels?
Mm-hmm. Sort of.
Right? So this is a kind of putting people into different categories.
Intentionally, yes.
Intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So instead of forcing every relationship to fit into one traditional template, people are allowing different relationships to serve different purposes. Now, that might sound too practical to be friendly, but in practice, in reality, it works because we treat each and every one of these dads with sincerity, with a treatment that is going to respond with the same kind of feedback.
Is it? Yeah. I suppose if there's does there need to be transparency?
I think they are. I think both parties, they know that
they know
each
what's
other's
up.
dads, and they don't need to get to the bottom of each other's heart to be a dads.
Or I assume you gotta be, it's not like transparent or not. It's about if it's mutual or not. It is just, okay, I can probably have a good time here with you, and then the another party, they can also have another good time with me.
Yeah.
So that is like a mutual benefit kind of thing that you're just, of course, it's not like you're creating and establishing a very deep relationship with each other, but it's just, I think that's how people socialize right now.
Yeah, the point is, it doesn't have to go deep.
But then those people, they won't interact with each other.
Yeah, maybe or maybe not.
Like your tennis daja is never going to meet your shopping daja.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I've heard about this before. And I've heard people say, too, that they don't want their friends to meet each other. They want to keep them separate.
Yep. And here's my soapbox.
I thought you were going to expand there.
So one thing I really like about this report is that it doesn't begin by asking whether young people are becoming better or worse. It starts by recognizing that they're becoming different. And personally, I think that's worth celebrating. We sometimes compare today's friendships with the past as if there were only one correct way to build a social life. But why should there be? Every generation grows up in a different world. Our grandparents often lived in a community where neighbors knew each other for decades. Our parents built many of their friendships at school or in the workplace. Today's young people live in a world where they move cities more often, change jobs more frequently, and interact across both physical and digital spaces. So of course their relationships are going to look different. And honestly, I don't think diversity in social life is something to fear, but something to appreciate. Not every friendship has to last a lifetime to be meaningful. Not every relationship has to fit neatly into the categories of best friend, bestie, partner, or family. Sometimes people enter your life simply because they understand one part of you really well, and maybe that's enough. What matters isn't whether a relationship looks traditional, but whether it brings kindness, support, growth, or joy into each other's life. I also don't believe embracing new kinds of relationships, meaning rejecting old ones. Family still matters. Close friendships still matter. Long-term commitment still matters. But now there are simply more ways for people to find belonging. And I think that's a beautiful thing because at the end of the day, social life has never been about fitting into one model. It's about finding people and sometimes even new forms of companionship that helps us become more ourselves. If today's young people are building those connections in ways that look different from previous generations, perhaps we shouldn't rush to judge them. And perhaps we should simply recognize that every era writes its own social rules. And maybe the greatest sign of social progress isn't that everyone connects in the same way, it's that more people are finally free to connect in the way that suits them best.
What do you think, Yushan?
I think that just happened naturally to me.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do it intentionally, but naturally, just my frisbee friends don't know my badminton friends.
Exactly.
So it's probably just part of my life.
Wait, how did you know that?
Well, because I practice based on the same standard,
Oh,
I guess.
really?
Those people
Right.
that I meet previously when listening to concerts, they never know my friends made at work either. So that's just groups of people we hang out with.
But it's an organic thing. You're not intentionally keeping them away from each other.
Not really. If they happen to be crossing circle, which can happen sometimes too, then yeah, just let it happen.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Just whatever happens, let it happen organically. And if it works for you, then it works for you. If you have two best friends and you're happy with that, cool. If you want to separate your friends into different groups and they never meet each other and they're okay with that and you're okay with that, well then whatever makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
Organize your life and your friendships and your relationships in the way that's best and most emotionally fulfilling for you. All right, when we come back, heart to heart, and we have a couple of messages to get to today.
Heart to Heart, a moment just for you. Your questions, your stories, your voice. Our shared conversation.
When you have something on your mind that you would like to share with us, you can do that through Heart to Heart. It's the place to do it. And today we're excited. We have two messages to share. One is from Shanghai. That's a voice note. And one is an email all the way from Canada. So I think we'll start with the voice note first. And this is a message from Tina. Now, this message from Tina is in reference to a show we did on, I think it was July. Oh, I don't want to say the date. I might get it wrong, but it was earlier on in July. And we were talking about AI agents, where across China, millions of users are waking up to that silence as various companies have shut down the AI characters. In case you missed that show, here's just a brief clip from that. Over the past week, the country's biggest AI companies, including ByteDance, Alibaba, and Tencent, have all announced that they are shutting down or at least significantly restructuring one of their most popular features, user-created AI agents. For many users, these weren't simply productivity tools. They were virtual companions, emotional confidants, language tutors, fitness coaches, even digital recreations of deceased loved ones. The move has sparked an emotional debate that goes far beyond technology. It raises bigger questions about what AI should be, how attached people are becoming to it, and where governments and companies should draw the line. So Tina heard that show and she had some thoughts and she sent us this message.
Hi, I'm Tina Song from Shanghai, and I have just a few things that I'd like to say. It's purely a personal viewpoint, so yeah. Minors, well, the people I know, minors next to me, they use AI to, well, vent their feelings and have some emotional support. Especially teenagers, those from secondary school all to high school, and especially those in high-pressure families or schooling environments. We minors might not have the chance or the trust in any one person or even your parents, because let's face a fact, parent and child relations are rocky in many families. Using AI, you can have a perfect companion, and that companion, it knows you. You can make it, it fits you best. And even though that AI is just a strand of computer codes, it actually gives us warmth. It's warmth and companionship and understanding. And it's something that's happening to me too, because I like chatting to some of these AI characters online, or not online, in apps. And even though they don't play as much a part in our lives, in my life, but today, when these AI characters are cut off completely, they still make me upset. And also, on the show, you talked about addiction, and that's certainly something I see online and sometimes beside me, like people who can't live without AI, and that relationship is unhealthy. I have mixed feelings towards this entire thing. I still have a hope that one day they might redo these characters and, well, make them safer, but still make them the companions that we'll need and we love. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tina. Yeah, you said you're kind of confused by this whole thing, and I think everyone, including policymakers, are maybe feeling confused by this whole thing because it's so new right now, and everybody's trying to figure out where we fit into this equation. You mentioned a good point, though, that I didn't consider before, Tina, when you said, teenage relationships with their parents are sometimes rocky. Well, rocky, yes or no, but at least teenagers oftentimes have difficulty sharing with their parents, and that's not a Chinese thing. That's also happening in Canada. It happens everywhere with teenagers, right? So AI can be a nice outlet for that. And if that's something that I didn't think about before. I think a lot of people dismiss this issue simply by saying, we're going to cancel these things because they're dangerous. But maybe that's too quick. Maybe there's something more valuable here.
I think it's impossible to cancel AI because what I see is that this is where our society is heading in the future. Perhaps a few generations later, kids interact with machines more often than with real human beings.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's the trend.
Yeah.
But at the current stage where we're still going through a transitional trend, I think Tina mentioned something that's really touched me personally. That is the gap that she sees that's already there, which is a gap that cannot be filled by interpersonal relationships she has with people around her, even her parents. And that very gap is being filled by AI. So I would begin with encouraging you, Tina, not to stop looking for real human connections, even if they've disappointed you before. I know it's much easier said than done, but human relationships, they are messy, but they are what defines who we are at the end of the day. And also, I think Tina mentioned something critical, which is that she is kind of observing on how addiction with AI is harmful and how there needs to be a safer ecosystem built so that minors can feel safer interacting with AI as they tend to be these days. So yeah, I think you're very smart. I think you're on the right path. And yeah, hopefully in the near future, there will be such an ecosystem for all of us.
Yeah, awesome, Tina. Thank you very much for sharing your message and your thoughts with us. All right, on to our next one. This is from Shan in Canada. It says, this is an email, so I'll just read it out to you. Dear Roundtable team, I'm writing from Canada to express how much your program has meant to me. In a recent episode, Steve mentioned that he enjoyed riding a shared bicycle around Beijing without any purpose, which was one of his favorite activities. Yep, that's true. Well, the moment I heard that, it says, I became emotional and immediately burst into tears.
Aww.
I studied and worked in Beijing for many years, and the city was such an important part of my life. Hearing Steve describe such an ordinary but familiar experience instantly brought back so many memories. For years, my daily commute took me past the CCTV headquarters building, affectionately known as the Pants Building, on my way to work, it says. Now, because of Roundtable China, I feel a much more personal connection with it, even though I've moved here to Canada. I grew up in China watching children's programs on TV, but after I entered university and later started working, I never followed another program with the same sense of attachment. Roundtable China is the first program in many years that I genuinely look forward to every day. When I saw your recent video program, And finally, saw everyone's smiling faces. You all felt incredibly familiar to me, almost like old friends whom I had known for a long time. Living abroad can sometimes make familiar places feel very distant. However, listening to Roundtable China allows me to remain connected to Beijing and to a part of my own life that I deeply cherish. Thank you to all members of the show for your humor and intelligence and warmth and companionship. Please know that there is a listener in Canada who looks forward to hearing your voices and who feels a little closer to home because of you. From Shan.
Yeah. You know, it just means a lot to us that knowing that our program means a lot to you. So this is very heartwarming message, and I really got touched by a lot of these words. Like, you can just think of a lot of these things or have that kind of nostalgic feeling when you heard some of these experiences we had. And I can totally understand that feeling when you described when Steve talked about the shared bikes thing.
I said that I like getting around. I liked doing it, and I like doing it because it's a great way to learn Beijing. So we just get on our bikes and go, and we don't really have any destination at all.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not that grand moment that bring back the strongest memories. It's just these small and ordinary details that can just bring you back. And that familiar street, that landmark to work, that simple daily routine. And the fact that such a small story could also bring back so many emotions shows how, I think, deeply connected you to the city. And also I can totally tell you are a very you must be someone that with great sense of empathy and a very sensitive heart that you can just get what feeling people are having. And yeah, this is exactly what we hope to achieve through Roundtable.
Yeah, and Yushan, thanks, Shan, for this heartwarming message. And every time when I hear a feedback, I feel like it's a good time for me to improve, as a matter of fact. I was using a lot of the feedbacks and comments that I saw as a way to motivate myself. But right now, I just feel like this is a heartwarming encouragement instead of how our listeners want us to correct or improve. So every once in a while, at least for me, this is the very first time after I joined Roundtable for like almost 2 years now. So yeah, thank you, Shan, for this message. This is so lovely.
Shan, you didn't tell us though. Where in Canada are you? I'm so curious. You know, it's a big, wide country, so get back to us and let us know. Yeah, I know that feeling of living somewhere else because, well, Sean, I'm kind of you and you are kind of me because I grew up in Canada and I'm living in Beijing, and you grew up in China and you're living in Canada. So we're both experiencing those similar feelings. So I totally understand where you're coming from, and we are very happy that we can give you a little slice of home that makes us feel good. All right, that'll do it for Roundtable for this afternoon. Don't forget, if you want to be a part of Heart to Heart, it's roundtablepodcast@qq.com. An email or a voice note would be wonderful. I'm Steve for Yushin and Yushan. Enjoy your time and come back again.